So you're considering a move to Plainfield, New Jersey. Today's episode is going to feature some history of Plainfield, some current developments, and 3 properties that present an array of bargain prices relative to the surrounding towns. So stick with me to take this journey. The last location is going to be quite a treat, so stick with us. Let's get to it. Welcome to New Jersey Living. If this is your first time visiting this channel, please do click subscribe, notification bell to stay updated on all of our future episodes. If you're looking for insights on any of the suburbs of New York City, that portion of New Jersey, this is the channel where you want to be. My name is Corey Jones, and I'm a real estate agent with Compass Real Estate. I receive phone calls and text messages and emails from folks just like you routinely looking to make a move here in New Jersey. So whether you're looking to buy or sell in one of the suburbs surrounding New York City, by all means reach out, give me a call. I would love to sit down and have a conversation about your options and marketing options in the event that you're looking to sell. So stay with me. Looking forward to this journey together. See you soon. So here we are at our first location in Plainfield. I chose this location because it's very much reflective of the pattern and trend what we're seeing here in Plainfield with development. Here we see the art lofts directly behind me, which is only a few years old. I would say this opened maybe in the past 3 years. And directly behind me is one of the 2 train stations, New Jersey Transit train stations that head to specifically either Newark Penn Station or Penn Station in Manhattan, depending on time of day. We'll get into that a little later. But this is reflecting the downtown scene. You can see a recent development in terms of the renovated building, and that there is an ongoing trend that is only accelerating here in Plainfield. So as I walk a little bit down towards the train station, I can share with you that this portion of town is going to see significant redevelopment over the next 5 years. So what you see right here, this trend with the art lofts, is going to continue not only in the downtown section. We're going to see in some of the sections, more residential sections a little further outside of this immediate area. So our first stop, we are going to look at a property. All properties that I'm going to preview, as I usually do, are going to be recent solds. That way you know exactly what the list price was, you know exactly what the sold price was, and it gives you an idea of what the market is here in Plainfield. Sales are always within the last 30 days. So we're going to stop at property that was under 500 to reflect a very budget-friendly scenario where you can get a lot for your money here in Plainfield. And we're going to get into some of those details as to why when we arrive at that first property. So I'll see you there. So before we arrive at our first destination, a few details about the Plainfield train stations. This is Plainfield Station here. The other station is Netherwood, only about maybe 2 miles north of where we are heading toward, well, more east of where we are now. Plainfield stations, both of them have direct service to Newark Penn Station throughout the day. There's direct service into Manhattan Penn Station off-peak time. Off-peak, why? Because it comes down to tunnel congestion. So there are so many lines that are coming into Manhattan throughout the state. There's but so much room for them to fit in, particularly in high peak times. So Plainfield is one of those stations that does not go directly in during peak time, but off-peak is an option. But this presents one of the features as to why it is such a popular destination for many who are looking for options that are within close proximity to the city. Here we are at our first stop, 935 Stell Ave. This property directly behind me across the street was 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, listed at $475, sold at $480. Now you get a pretty good glimpse of not only that property, which is somewhat of a Dutch colonial style, and I'm just going to pan around a little bit, get a feel for the general neighborhood. You see colonials of various types. You'll see a bi-level as well next to the one that I'm panning by right now. And you can see that many properties have been recently renovated, upgraded, reflective of a lot of neighborhoods throughout Plainfield. Plainfield has drawn a lot of development through, I would say, the past 5 to 7 years. which has a trend really accelerating in the same direction now that major investors are coming in with developments like the Art Loft. And Art Loft is really one of the smaller of the projects that are coming up in the downtown area specifically. We talked about, I referenced a little earlier, why Plainfield would be one of the places that has somewhat bargain prices. This is reflected in a recent article out of the New York Times. We are actually Memorial Day weekend right now in May, which we are fortunate to have this great weather. You see sunglasses on right now because we've been just blessed to have like great sunny warm weather on a Memorial Day, because Jersey can be a coin toss whether it's going to be rainy and dreary or nice and sunny on Memorial Day. This article from New York Times came out in March, so just about 2 months ago, featuring why so many people are really gravitating towards Plainfield. First reason being, it is within a short commuting distance to New York City. We're still talking about a 45-50 minute drive to Manhattan, likewise to downtown Brooklyn. And that's, of course, when traffic is flowing. You throw a factor in traffic, that can easily change. So that's one reason. Another reason, 2 train stations, one we just left. Both stations, again, don't provide direct access to Penn Station, New York, without an exchange, but it depends on the time of day, whether it's on peak or off. But nonetheless, 2 train stations right here in town. Express bus also in town. Most towns in I'd say about 30 to 40 mile radius of Manhattan are going to have an express bus line to Port Authority in Manhattan. So Plainfield has that as well. So those are 2 main factors. Another is the value proposition in terms of just the market value of homes. Reason being is because of schools. Schools are not highly rated here in Plainfield. There are very much viable private and parochial options, parochial meaning Catholic or Christian or religious schools of some kind. There's right here in town, almost in this neighborhood, Koinonia Academy, this K through 12, Wardlaw Hartridge, Pingree. There's a number of others that are a lot of residents do take advantage of when they choose not to go with the public school option. This is something that is going to be one of those big 3 that I always mention: proximity to the city, train station, schools. Schools does not get the check mark in terms of what people look up and see ratings. Primarily, you were talking about greatschools.com and Niche when you pull those up and people do their research. So without that factor, many people who are considering are people who either don't have kids or public school is not necessarily a deal breaker. Private school is a viable option, so they come to Plainfield because this home right here, again, going back to 935 still across the street, we place this house in one of the neighboring towns, then 480 is out of the question. We're talking 580, right? We're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of about 600 or low 600s depending on the town. The only other town in close proximity that has a lot of the historical homes and the size of homes that Plainfield has would be Westfield, and easily something like this would be probably closer to 700 in Westfield. So getting in a little bit into the history of Plainfield, as I'm gonna pan down the block just to give you a general feel of the streets. Just again, it's a holiday weekend, it's nice and quiet, but it stays relatively quiet like this more often than not. History of Plainfield dates back to the days of the Revolutionary War. So we have accounting for more recent history. A century ago, Plainfield would have been the place to be in the region here. A lot of very wealthy resided here in Plainfield. That dynamic started to change along with many other more urban locations throughout the country post the MLK assassination riots. And that's something that you'll see in the same article that I'm referencing, the New York Times articles, when a lot of that tended to change, and there was certainly a shift for decades after that until now. The past decade, we've seen substantial regeneration here in this location. So this is most certainly an area to consider, particularly if you are bargain hunting. These are homes that are well within reach. If your budget is somewhere in the $450, $550, $600 range, this right here is well within your range, and again, a very friendly commute to New York. So we're going to drop by one of the park locations. So we're not going to hit a property next stop. Next stop will be Suburb Park, and you'll get a little feel of what some of the recreational and other neighborhood aesthetics, if you want to call it that, will provide here in Plainfield. I'll see you there. We're at our second community stop. This stop is Suburb Park. You can see behind me the pond and gazebo. That's part of the park. The park is much more extensive than just this area. This is a paved walkway for those who bike ride, jog, or just walk the dog, walk with family. The pond is stocked with fish, so people do come here to take in a little fishing. Nothing too large, but frogs, turtles, deer frequent this area in terms of wildlife. The park is comprised of both a recently installed turf field for soccer and for football. The football is more for, I believe, youth league in this case. Baseball, softball fields, basketball court, open areas where there's cricket played probably every Sunday morning. It's a pretty extensive space. We're going to take a look at the other areas of the park and not just this. This is from where we just left. I'm going to pan around just so you can see some of the residential homes directly behind me. 12 to 15 minute walk from where we were at 935 Stell. So this park, for a significant portion of the residential areas in Plainfield, is walkable. It's right here in the neighborhood. So another, again, great feature. See if we can get a little peek at this bird here on the tree. So there are labels of trees throughout the park, and there's a couple spots I thought that may have had, what, bird's gone now, some indication of wildlife, but trees I know for sure have been labeled throughout the park just to represent the biodiversity that's here in terms of nature. And on that topic of the diversity, I'd be remiss not to mention that Plainfield is an extremely diverse community. So you find a little bit of every thing represented here. And that's another attraction for many to come and reside in this kind of location. So we're going to take a peek at a couple other spots in the park to be able to get a better feel and idea of what it looks like. I'm going to give you a view of where the annual summer music festival. It's like an R&B jazz festival that takes place, and you have many, most are kind of old school from, I say old school, from like 70s, 80s, sometimes 90s, but we've had a good number of acts that come through in terms of hip hop. I know Dougie Fresh has been out. We've had, of course, George Clinton, who's a native of Plainfield from Parliament, has been out. We've had, right offhand, I can't even think of all the different groups. So we've had a lot of good acts come out here. And it's a county park, so it's not specifically Plainfield that pulls it off, but it's located here in Plainfield. Fireworks for 4th of July, that takes place here as well. So there's a lot of community events that takes place right here. So let's take a look at a couple of the spots before we take our next property view. So directly behind me now are the two baseball, softball fields, and the turf field more immediately behind me, where there's some soccer going on right now on the turf field. On the other side of the street that cuts to the park, you can see one of the 3 tennis courts that are here in town. This one is pretty much open to public. There's another one that is a bit more regulated. We'll have that actually our final stop, because that is used for both schools and clubs. But that scene that you see behind me with the open fields is where the Rhythm and Blues Festival takes place. So stage is set up there. I believe more recently, before COVID, there was the Force MDs that came through. That was another recent group. There's been so many I can't even think of which ones were the more recent through the years, but it's an act that, for the most part, if you were around 80s, 90s, you would recognize the name, all right? So likewise, fireworks takes place here just behind the softball fields. I don't know if you can see too well through the video here. There's basketball courts, and then there's another open field where a lot of cricket is played, and a Shakespeare like garden, that's community garden area that's over there, that's maintained by one of the local gardening groups. So lovely, again, surrounding. This is again, holiday weekend, Memorial Day weekend, so you'll find families out cooking out, spending time together, celebrating, kids playing. It's again, it's really a very great feature for any community. All right, next stop is going to be our second home, and I'll see you there. We are now in a neighborhood locally known as Sleepy Hollow here in Plainfield. Officially, this is the Netherwood Heights Historic District. You can see the sign right here behind me. Plainfield has roughly about 7 or 8 historic districts. I'm gonna flash up the map so you can get a look at it. What that means for you if you were to own here locally, give you a little view of this house up on the hill, is that there are certain requirements by the community that are intended to maintain the general character and the aesthetics of the community. So when it comes to doing renovation work, it does require certain approvals. So sometimes it may not be renovation, sometimes putting up a fence or doing a deck or doing some other kind of work that is going to require approval. So behind me, as I pan around, is 816 Charlotte. This was listed at 700, sold at 685. 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath. So again, 685 for a property like this and this type of location. That will only happen in Plainfield. That's not going to happen in Westfield. It's not going to happen in Scotch Plains or Mountainside or South Plainfield or Clark, Piscataway, Edison. Those surrounding towns to where we are right now, that type of price point for this type of property, it's just not going to be possible. So again, that goes back to that discussion of the appeal is for people who are looking for that bargain, need to be in or prefer to be in close proximity to the city, if not need to be. And schools are not a deal breaker. All right, so either not having school-age children or having a scenario where public and private schools are basically an option. All right, so maybe the kids are already in that kind of setting, or the families are open to having that kind of school setting. We're going to take a few shots just to give you a little drive through the neighborhood so you can see street view of what I'm referencing in terms of the uniqueness of the homes. And then we're going to visit our final property view, which is very much like Sleepy Hollow, although it's not in Sleepy Hollow. It's an extraordinary block, in my opinion. So enjoy the views from the street that you're about to see, and I'll see you at the last property. We're at our final stop at 920 Cedarbrook Road. So as I had mentioned a little earlier, this location, in my humble opinion, is probably the finest block in Plainfield, one of the finest blocks in Plainfield. You'll see what I'm referencing in just a moment. Behind me, 920 is another example of a bargain of a buy. This was listed at $975. It sold at $962.5. 8-bedroom, 5.5 bath. Right, so the lawns, you can just see for yourself. The property lot sizes are pretty extensive, reflective of the size of the properties. You can see next door is a property that has been recently been touched up as well. This entire block is just a gorgeous storybook setting type of dynamic, where you have tree-lined streets, you know, lots of shade, a lot of older, mature trees. All right, and so the trees that you see between the sidewalks and the curb are all municipal. These are city trees, so you can see the general age and size. The size of them reflect the age and that they're very older, mature. Other side of the street are newer. These are younger trees, but this side, they're very much older. I'm giving you another view of 920 as I walk down the block. I just did a drive-through recording so that you could see and feel the general aesthetic of the entire block. These are all very, I'd say, considerable, large to very comfortable size colonials here, right? So one behind me here has a bit of a Dutch colonial feel here, and just again a massive one next door. I'm just going to continue to walk down the block a little ways. So this type of property, going back to the theme that I've been referencing throughout this particular episode, is that if this was a different town location, 920 is definitely well over $1 million. Well over $1 million in any other town, and in some towns it's going to be 1.5, 1.7-ish. If that was one of the neighboring towns that does carry that type of value, like a Westfield, that could easily be a 1.5. So I'm just going to continue to pan a little bit just so you can just to see and appreciate the block. I'm not going to walk the entire block because, again, I gave a drive-through just a moment ago, but just want you to be able to get an appreciation of the general surrounding. I'm going to go a little bit around the curve here so you can see a couple more of the colonials. But again, when it does snow in the winter and you come through when there's like a new snow scene, this could be like one of those postcards for a holiday picture if you saw this kind of block. Very reflective of stuff that we see usually in a movie setting somewhere. And I can hear a little music in the background, so they may have a bit of a holiday gathering event going on back here now. So yeah, I'm gonna stop here, not go any further, but give you a view of a couple more of the colonial style properties on this block. So just to reiterate, Plainfield is an absolute bargain location. It is an up and coming destination for many people that are bargain hunting because, as I've been mentioning all along, the development is not just residential, but it is commercial as well. So there are, in addition to a few luxury apartment buildings that have been built, there is a newer Wawa CVS just locally here. Number of businesses have opened and still will be. There'll be certain initiatives to draw in certain types of businesses to diversify and expand the types of retail that are in the downtown area. So with all of this influx of growth and development comes offset with tax base. So one thing that we are always very cognizant of here in New Jersey is property taxes. So Union County is one of the counties that can be pretty considerable, just to be honest. Some counties are, particularly as you get into central and southern New Jersey, are larger, and they tend to have larger tax bases because they are campuses for major corporations, and that brings a certain degree of tax dollars. The smaller counties are a bit more residential, which means the tax burden falls on residents more so than businesses and corporations that are located there. So Union County, along with Essex County, are those two smaller counties directly west of Manhattan. So the more a locality like a Plainfield can increase the tax base in terms of businesses to come in and contribute, the more appreciation that we feel as residents of this county in terms of the burden that's going to be relieved for us. So this is our final property view, and we have one more stop that I'm going to give another feature of something in the community in terms of recreation as well as development. So one more stop, I'll see you there. Our final Plainfield stop is here at the Donald Van Blake tennis courts, which are a part of the Hupstein Field complex, sport complex. This is where the high school team, you can't see the stadium too well because the tennis court view blocks it, but the stadium where the high school football team plays is directly behind us. It is off-site from the actual high school campus itself. But this is an extensive tennis court setup. It has lights used a lot by obviously the high school team, but it is tennis clubs that are routinely here as well. Community also utilizes this space. So this is a very, very well-known, iconic feature here within the community. Now, directly across, I'm going to pan around from the tennis courts, is the former location of Muhlenberg Hospital. So Muhlenberg Hospital dates back for several decades, all right, and eventually was decommissioned, if you will, and has now been converted into the Randolph, because we are on Randolph Road. So the Randolph are an example of luxury apartments that have been a significant feature or component of the redevelopment, revitalization of Plainfield. So this one is comprised, as you can probably read on the sign, luxury apartments. Behind this portion, this is just one part of what Muhlenberg Hospital used to be, is now the Muhlenberg. It's a nursing school, nursing and imaging, medical imaging school. So that's directly behind here, and there are medical offices that are also still just about being completed on the other side of the apartment complex here. So this is all, again, new development to the community, the neighboring residential area. Much of the footage that you've seen is from those areas. So the road footage that I've been recording, I've recorded from various neighborhoods, not just one, just to get a feel for different areas throughout the city. So this is our final stop. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Plainfield. I hope this is something that you would consider if you are looking for an option to move in Plainfield. For Plainfield residents that are viewing, by all means, if you're looking for an option to sell or just want to get a general idea of the value of your home right now, by all means, reach out, give me a call. All of my contact information is in the details. Would love to give you an assessment of where you stand right now in terms of general market value. Market is starting to settle a little bit now. We're in May, again, Memorial Day weekend. And with the rising interest rates and a slight uptick of inventory, the market is showing signs that it's settling. It's not there yet, but it's starting to settle. So it's always, in my opinion, my professional opinion, essential that you know the value of your home. It is one of the most significant investments that you have in your lifetime. So just be aware of its value, even if you're not looking to sell. So any other questions or comments, please drop them right here in the comment section. This is very much a community page for every community that I'm in. If there are some features that you may want me to come back to revisit, because I will have more than one video for each community, I'll come back and feature other things such as places to eat, things to do, notable social events, things like that. So some things you want me to include, feature, drop a line in. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, be safe, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you soon.